トビデオ
I don't talk about Masami Obari enough on this show. I hand out praise frequently, perhaps even build up creators being more famous than they actually were, but Ohbari really is a man whose reputation precedes him. He's one of the few and the proud who got the career fantasy most anime fans dream of, netting a job in the industry straight out of high school and immediately becoming a formidable force within. With his slick, detailed designs working in concert with his smooth, dynamic animation, Ohbari was a prodigious innovator for anime in the 80s, helping take mecha battles to the next levels, transforming weapons of war into sleek weapons of war, inventing the Ohbari punch. He's earned his spot among the greats of the art form, one that's only gotten more solidified this year with the winter surprise hit Brave Bang Bravern. But it wasn't always like that, at least in America. In Japan, his legacy always appeared to be secure, and among American mech fans, he was always held to some level of esteem, sometimes to mimetic levels. But outside of those demographics, Ohbari was perceived as kind of a joke. When I started delving deeper into anime 15 years ago, the dominant perception of Masami Obari among non-mech heads was that he was an overrated hack who used the rule of cool as a crutch, and who ultimately could not cut the mustard in creating serious anime that he ultimately got busted down to working on hentai in the 2000s. That's quite a change from where we are now, where he's seen as a celebrated veteran, but it's weird that opinion even took root in the first place. Ichiro Itano directed some pretty ranked titles in his days, but his reputation has stayed consistently gold. Why and how was Ohbari seen as a hack by some anime fans? It might have something to do with today's title.
That's right. The dice have been thrown, my friend.
Okay now, let's get started, Mr. Batman.
In 1990, a destructive earthquake flattened the entire Kanto region of Japan. Worried about such an event happening a second time, Tokyo decided to move its government to a man-made island off about 115 square miles in Tokyo Bay. Sounds familiar? It's now the far-out future of 2017, and public safety appears to be tightly controlled. Up until recently, that is, with strange, out-of-the-ordinary acts of evil beginning to manifest. Luckily for the island's denizens, the students of the prestigious National Belnar Institute appear to be handling it. Gifted with gems of crystallized fighting energy known as Kaiser stones, these groups of fighting teenagers with attitude set out to save their city, and by extension, the world. But seemingly unknown to them, the evil they seek to defeat just might be lurking within the school administration itself.
The gears are already in motion. Hurry, my army of soldiers.
We've talked before about Masami Obari's contributions to fighting game anime adaptations in the 90s, specifically how he did the design work for the Fatal Fury specials, which led to him getting the director's chair on Fatal Fury, the motion picture. That was in 1994. The year Ohbari gained supreme power from the production gods. And 2 years later, in 1996, we see the peak of that power with Voltage Fighter Gowcaizer. Based off of a video game that sold itself on having Ohbari's name attached to it, it now became an anime that sold itself on having Ohbari's name attached to it. Make no mistake, Goukaizer is a franchise defined by the sheer amount of sway Ohbari wielded in the mid-90s. To borrow a podcast phrase, it is Masami Obari's blank check. And it's not great.
I don't think this is the time to be bickering over this. Or do you think I'm a pushover?
Well, Evo's already long past by the time this video goes out. Speaking of, how about that Third Strike Top 6? I still would like to keep with the annual tradition of talking about a fighting game anime. And I hope you enjoyed those videos on Fatal Fury and Street Fighter from last year and the year before, because from this point onward, we're going back to the Kusoge, a poverty anime based off of a poverty fighter. What less could you ask for?
How pathetic.
Why exactly is Voltage Fighter Gowcaizer go crappy? So cheesy and so shoddy that it soured the opinion of an anime legend for an entire otaku generation. How about we break into this bad boy and see for ourselves.
Cut it out! Are you trying to destroy my image this morning?
It's 1981. The bubble economy is just now starting to take form with its newly emergent arcade industry. Within this video game gold rush, a company called Technos Japan is born. Founded by former Data East staff members Kunio Taki, Takashi Hanya, and Takeo Hagiwara, Technos spent most of its first years as a small dog and pony show operating out of a single-room apartment. Its growth not facilitated by Data East suing the three devs over allegations of stolen resources, which would be settled in August 1983. Data East would eventually publish early Technos titles like Tag Team Wrestling and Karate Champ, as the software company did not have the resources to publish their own games. That would change come 1986, when Technos released the side-scrolling beat-em-up game Ketsu Koha Kunio-kun, or Hot-Blooded Tough Guy Kunio. Themed around high school delinquents, it originating around lead designer Yoshihisa Kishimoto's own high school years, Kunio-kun is the key innovator of the side-scrolling beat-em-up genre. Building on the foundation set by 1984's Kung Fu Master, Kunio-kun introduced concepts such as the belt scroll format, a 3-button combo system, and the overall theme around street brawling, all tenets of the beat-em-up genre that was poised to take the world by storm, which Technos did with their follow-up to Kunio-kun, Double Dragon. Double Dragon was the arcade title that made Technos known overseas, but it was the Kunio-kun franchise that was popular in their home country, which allowed them to keep the lights on. It was so popular that Technos eventually spun it off into sports franchises for the Famicom. Some of these would be localized in America as Super Dodgeball and Nintendo World Cup, while also localizing a Kunio-kun sequel as River City Ransom. With the Kunio-kun and Double Dragon series and their spin-offs printing endless money on top of original titles like WWF Superstars and the Comba Tribes, it seemed like Technos Japan was on top of the video game world, provided that the beat-em-up genre remained the hottest ticket in Arcade Town. Enter 1991. With the arrival of Capcom's Street Fighter and SNK's Fatal Fury that same year, the fighting game genre turned the arcade world upside down. Soon, if any company wished to stay with the pack, they needed to invest in one-on-one fighting games. This being especially true now that the bubble economy era had popped and companies had to enter adapt or die mode. Technos, tragically, was slow to adapt to the sea change sweeping the industry. They were still more focused on expanding the Double Dragon and Kunio-kun franchises overseas, to limited success with the latter, even with a localized renaming to Crash and the Boys.
Is that girl a boy too?
Yes.
By 1994, Technos Japan was teetering on the edge of bankruptcy. If they had any hope to survive until next year, they would need a fighting game. Since the problem was so massive, it was decided, fuck it. They needed two fighting games that would be published under the SNK banner and released for both arcades and the then new Neo Geo CD. The first was a Double Dragon fighting game released on March 3rd, 1995. In a bout of corporate synergy, the game was meant to tie into the live-action film that was released just a few months earlier. It did respectable numbers, breaking the top 20 in popularity that April, but reception was mixed, giving praise to the interactive stages and solid controls, but criticizing the low number of playable characters, its goofy tone, and the dubious honor it had with being attached to a movie that was a proven critical and commercial flop.
Dude, you must suck at video games!
The second one was our star of the evening, Voltage Fighter Gowcaizer. This being Technos' first original title in years, this one had big ambitions attached to it. Within the game itself, it used some pretty innovative mechanics for the time. Mechanics like having the screen zoom in and out depending on the distance between the characters, each character having a super powerful special move that can only be executed when they're at low health, and the ability to copy and use the specials of defeated characters. But the big hook Technos had was that the character designs would be done by Masami Obari. I want to make this absolutely clear. There was a time in Japan where Ohbari was so popular that having him do character design work on your game could be marketed as a selling point. Ohbari created a 10-man roster of ordinary students, teachers, and robots with supernatural abilities. They are as follows: the hot-blooded but virtuous hero Isato Kaiser, who turns into Goukaizer, edgy British rock star Cash Guston, who transforms into Hellstinger, chipper Chinese girl Sanhua Ling, who transforms into Karen Son, aspiring futuristic pop star Shia Shu Silvanu, who transforms into her idol alter ego Shia Hishizaki, Tough as Nails Bancho Ichi Tachibana, who transforms into the copyright edging Brighter, stern teacher Rampo Fudo, who transforms into the ninja Fudomaru, American nerd Randy Riggs, who transforms into the all-American hero Captain Atlantis, Marion the Robot, who transforms into Marion the Robot, martial artist Goichiro Kaiser, who transforms into his murderous alter ego Xing Long, and mysterious transfer student Kyosuke Shigure, who doesn't transform into anything. The uniting theme for all of these characters is that they were meant to be embodiments of different kinds of narratives and tropes. For example, Goukaizer is the embodiment of the battle shonen hero, Kyosuke is the embodiment of the supernatural mystery story, Shia is the embodiment of boobs, magical idol singer heroines, etc. But there was an ulterior motive for hiring Ohbari. Technos had big plans for Goukaizer, and they wanted to launch their new franchise with a mixed media campaign, not only with a game, but also an anime OVA which would have Ohbari at the helm for extra franchise synergy. When the game was released that September, it got solid enough reception, despite having characters and supers that were disgustingly broken.
This thing is disgusting.
Yeah.
The only reason you didn't win before is I was playing an even more busted character.
Critics praised his controls and Ohbari's appealing character designs. However, critique was leveled at the uninspired soundtrack and the stiff animation that clashed with Ohbari's designs. Ohbari-san has gone on record saying he designed the characters with the hope that they would be done in the anime visual style like how Capcom did for Darkstalkers, but Technos went for the traditional pixel art techniques instead. Unfortunately, Goukaizer sold considerably less than Double Dragon, and Technos would end up going bankrupt that December, closing their offices on the 15th before officially being dissolved by shareholders 5 days later. Ohbari, however, still wanted to make that Goukaizer anime. Through some convincing of the new rights holders, Urban Plant, Ohbari and his team of connections were allowed to make the anime. Urban Plant figured that the anime would tie in nicely with the PlayStation port of Goukaizer they were planning to release. With the help of Taki Corporation as distributor, industry workhorse JC staff as production house, advertising firm Big West as marketing head, and production being bankrolled by Gaga Communications, remember them? The Voltage Fighter Gowcaizer anime went ahead as planned.
Come on, haven't you gotten all psyched up yet?
Oh yeah, sure.
If I could wager a reason why Ohbari wanted to continue making the anime, is that he really wanted to see the characters he designed in the animation style he designed them for. The stiff animations in the game were clearly a sore spot for him. If they were put into an anime, Ohbari would be able to show how they were designed to move. And to his credit, that's the best part about this anime. As director, storyboarder, and co-animation director alongside colleague Kazunori Iwakura, Ohbari makes it his mission to make the characters be animated in ways that are strong, dynamic, and flashy as fuck. Ohbari and his squad have got the heart and souls of animators. Goukaizer the anime is devoted to giving the audience the best show on earth through fight scenes alone. Characters are constantly in motion, but they don't feel hyperactive or disjointed. The animators have characters twist, break model, and be bathed in Technicolor Goukaizer beams, but there's still clarity in the motions. This is assisted by how the characters' moves are given weight. You feel the strength behind each punch, kick, and charge, communicating the superhero ideal these characters are supposed to embody. Ohbari and his team achieved that by being unafraid to utilize smearing and other such techniques that Ohbari wanted to see in the actual video game. But even outside their henshin forms, the characters are still given excellent martial mastery in their fights. In a way, a lot of what Goukaizer accomplishes animation-wise feels more like a polished version of what we saw in Fatal Fury the motion picture. We can credit this to the animators who bring their own areas of expertise to Ohbari's table. Zoichiro Matsuda's use of light and shadow, Masashi Ishiyama's forcefulness, the brother duo of Ko and Yo Yoshinari and their adherence to the Kaneda school of effects animation. In fact, Ohbari was a follower of Yoshinori Kaneda's school of animation. That was a philosophy he carried throughout his entire career. Animation should prioritize dynamic movement and effects, and if you have to bend or break some conventional wisdom to get there, so be it. A philosophy that could let us in on Ohbari's character design methods because those have always been divisive.
Well,
It plays against all sense of understanding.
This is something I barely touched on back when I did the Fatal Fury videos, but Ohbari's humans are a large part of why non-mecha fans questioned his greatness. His mecha designs? Unquestionable. His human designs? Very questionable. To most people, Ohbari's character designs embody a lot of the worst design trends of the 90s. Spiky hair, high cheekbones, pronounced noses, and everyone having this glossy sheen to them that it makes it look like they're covered in oil, especially the women. Ohbari has stated that he designs his characters with a similar philosophy to how he designs his mecha. He designs them in a way that allows them to be animated better while also emphasizing the qualities that people like. The men are given forms and clothes that emphasize their musculature and coolness factor, and the ladies are given forms and clothes that emphasize their
ass, titties, ass and titties, ass, titties, titties, ass and titties.
Stating the flagrantly obvious, but Ohbari's dedication to sexualizing the female form is up front and center in this anime. He and his bros might have enjoyed playing bouncy with Mai Shiranui's breasts 2 years ago, but now that they've got their own toys to play with, the horn dogs are off the leash. To be fair, we should expect Karin and Shia to put on a show for us considering that's how they were in the original games. But when Ohbari gives himself an inch, he takes miles. The ladies twist and contort themselves into so many positions for maximum boobage that Escher girls would need to come back from relevance just to have a seizure. Not that they would need help considering how little their costumes leave little to the imagination. Would you believe that this outfit is Shia's street clothes? I'm not opposed to this kind of fan service on principle, but you do have to admit that a lot of the boarding decisions really make some of this laughable. Oh, we have a female character breathing her dying words after sacrificing herself to save someone? Better add a panty shot in there just in case. When Ohbari did designs for the Fatal Fury anime, people did notice some of his quirks, but mostly didn't think much of them since the characters still looked like their original designs. But now that he's using wholly original characters of his own creation, a lot of what people dislike about his designs is standing naked before them. This is Ohbari without limits, and people are afraid. Also, his limits possibly include not stealing from himself when designing a cast. And while we're still on the subject of technical details, let's talk English dub. There may have been some incentive to try to make the localization sound presentable considering this was done to try to capitalize on an upcoming PS1 port of the game. So for that reason, Central Park Media does appear to be putting some of their more professional cast members in the roles. Actors like Ted Lewis, Rachel Lillis, and Hi Apollo Smile.
I am the ghost of the one who was beaten to death by you in a karate match.
However, considering this is Central Park Media in the late 90s, the best they can do isn't even really their best.
What makes me the authority?
But is that what makes Voltage Fighter Gowcaizer bad? Dated character design work and subpar dubbing? Of course not. It's the story, stupid!
Huh, I'm beginning to understand.
Before I go further, I should state for posterity that, for as much power and influence Masami Obari had on the overall identity of Voltage Fighter Gowcaizer, it was not his original idea. That credit goes to the game's creator and director, Kengo Asai. His biography is mostly unknown, but what we do have are credits. Goukaizer was his first major production he was put in charge for, and I have to think it was only because he had a planning credit on the forgotten 1993 fighter Schmeiser Robo. He would later go on to work on future SNK cult classics such as The Last Blade and Goro, Mark of the Wolf. And I don't know if he knew Ohbari before Goukaizer, but we do know that the two men collaborated more with each other on future projects afterwards. Right up to Asai pitching the original concept and doing the series composition on Ohbari's 2000 Super Robot anime, Platinum Hugin Ordain. I bring this up not to spread blame around, but to illustrate that Asai and Ohbari might be more on the same page than one would think. These two men are a lot of things, but storytellers they are not, at least in this stage of their career. Ohbari had directed at this point, but mostly had his ideas polished by more professional screenwriters. And Asai's big story break came in a genre of video games where storytelling rules are regarded with contempt. Yeah, let's bring Heihachi back from the dead again despite what happened in the last game. The point I'm making is that there has to be someone I can pin this absolutely amateurish story on.
Hey, you're awake, Street Fighter.
The basic structure of the anime appears to be following an expanded version of the game's story. Characters get introduced, they fight each other for a bit before moving on to the game's mid-boss, the combined form of an incestuous brother-sister couple, and no, I'm not joking about that.
The one you love becomes the most important thing to you.
It follows that in order to protect the one you love, it is necessary to exercise an ultimate power.
Before finally fighting the final boss, Master Oga.
The Judgment.
The bones of a solid fighting game adaptation are here, and yet, it's surprising just how much they get wrong in crafting everything else. First, not all the fighters appear or are even properly represented in this anime. Shenlong is excised completely, a robot that resembles Marion exists to drop to Goukaizer in the first minute, and the characters of Captain Atlantis, Fudomaro, and Brider are reduced to mere cameo roles. We don't even get to see Randy take the Captain Atlantis form. Fatal Fury the motion picture did seem like they were trying to cram too much of the cast in their runtime, but at least it was giving the fans what they want. Here, the sudden restraint just feels like them holding back. But, okay, maybe they just need the extra screen time to give the cast they do have more development. And that doesn't really happen. It does seem like they do a smart thing by introducing the cast via them bearing witness to Isato fighting as Goukaizer, setting up that all the characters are the de facto defenders of their city, but there's a problem. Kyosuke is there. Story-wise, Kyosuke has not yet been properly introduced or integrated with the rest of the main cast yet. His dog spirit sidekick Kubira is also there and in her coincidentally sexy human form that she does not use until much later in the story.
And besides, if I stayed as a dog, I'd stand out.
Do what you will.
Alright.
So, it's an in media res intro. Goukaizer fights the big robot so he and Hellstinger can march into Master Oga's lair unimpeded, right? Well, no, as we'll soon see that Brider and Fudomaro are also there in the intro, but they aren't there in the final battle. Uh-oh, somebody couldn't keep their story straight.
Have I not learned anything?
That's the kind of mess that we're dealing with in Voltage Fighter Gowcaizer's story. While I can understand the plot for the most part, I also feel like I'm on the outside staring in at the story. Because the story beats are assembled so aimlessly, I can't get immersed into the larger plot. Tonally, it's all over the place as expected from an anime where a character's dying moments can have a breast jiggle. Scenes will begin with a serious conversation or a character stating their resolve, only to be undercut by an unfunny, overlong bit. A no-frills somber conversation between Isato and Cash about how their Kaiser stones are formed from Master Oga's blood and that they are essentially relying on evil energy for their superpowers probably should not end with Karin bonking Isato on the head while she throws a tantrum like a toddler. Then again, I doubt tonal consistency would provide adequate succor for this anime's many points of contention. The character depth we see on display is at kiddie pool level, made more ill by Asai not using some of the backstory he already had in place. There's no mention of Karin being the descendant of Sun Wukong or Shia actually being an undercover galaxy police officer. They're only defined by their relationship to the guy characters, hence the dull romantic subplot between Shia and Kyosuke that goes nowhere.
Like this?
What a fool I am.
They make a cute couple, huh?
They certainly are standing next to each other.
Not like the guys have it any better though. Isato's fear of killing someone in a fight does get some play when it actually happens, but his regret over that never gets fully parsed beyond a "get over it, you pussy." And Cash's character journey is done completely backwards when he talks about how helpful he's been to this point, even though he's been told all his life to be a self-interested tool with flashbacks to support it.
How did I develop such a self-sacrificing character? Maybe I was railing against all that uptight society crap from my childhood.
But he's done nothing to suggest that he's been anything but a supportive ally this entire anime. A jerk? Maybe, but he's been way more of a help than a hindrance. Kyosuke really does seem to be the true star of this anime considering he gets the most screen time, he's the one who hints to Isato that the Kaiser stones have a more sinister purpose, and he's the one where we see most of his backstory unfold. He's trying to get revenge on Master Oga for killing his sister.
Evil beast! In this feast of rage, I will take back the honor of my sister!
Oh, really?
Pay your respects to this divine sword!
But that time on screen is way too much, and even though he looks cool, he's by far the least interesting in the main cast to focus on. I guess we needed that romantic subplot too much.
You're not welcome. Leave now.
Hilariously, it seems to me the ones who get just the right amount of character focus are Isabelle and Digby over here. Ryo and Suzu Asahina get enough screen time and development to show why they are loyal to Master Oga, why they have a special stone called the Soul Gear that allows them to turn into platonic twins, and what happens when one of them dies and the other has to continue the fight without them, ultimately being redeemed when the heroes show them mercy. It slays me that the characters who get the most complete narrative attached to them are Master Oga's underlings who fight with the power of incest.
Above all, I do like you both, and I am envious of the pure love that I know you possess.
Master Oga doesn't even get that kind of development because his villain motivations are wildly inconsistent. Despite being the show's narrator and telling his backstory in those narrations, I barely get a good grasp on him. In the first episode, he's merely portrayed as a pawn of some greater evil and is actually begging for someone to kill him since he will destroy the world if left alone.
Now there's not a moment to spare. Anyone, come and stop me.
Knowing this though, he still puts up one hell of a resistance throughout the rest of the anime and seems to relish in the world's destruction in typical godlike arrogance. Basically, what if younger Toguro was written like crap?
To think that you are the one that they await. Like Pygmalions worshipping the statue they created. Pathetic humans feel my power.
Unlike younger Toguro though, Oga jobs pretty easily and we get to see the true final boss, Omni Exist. The will of all living beings on Earth who wish to see the world come to an end, even in a fleeting thought.
The destruction of Earth. It is the desire of all humankind, and I am the one who will carry it out.
What the hell are you talking about?
And while she does not come out of nowhere, I couldn't help but feel that this admittedly awesome final battle would be a lot more effective if everything else that came before it was in any way good. And since the anime ends with her defeat with little in the way of an epilogue, I guess Sasai and Ohbari chose to finish on what little high note they could muster. Voltage Fighter Gowcaizer the game did not save its parent company from the brink of bankruptcy, while Voltage Fighter Gowcaizer the anime did not adequately promote the game's PlayStation port since that ended up getting delayed by 6 months after the first episode was released. It did find its way on home media charts in America though, which is probably why this anime could be seen as many people's first exposure to Masami Obari. And if this is the first impression, no wonder he got such an unfair reputation.
Load weight?
In other words, the difference between yours and Karin's weight.
What? Wow. You had to say it, didn't you, you stupid bald boy! Ah!
In the American anime fandom, it feels like a recent development that people are studying the contributions to anime creators beyond just the director and voice actors. For this reason, people are beginning to understand and appreciate Masami Obari's work in both the past and the present. But the American anime fandom of old saw him at his worst and made the sweeping generalization that he was anime's Rob Liefeld, an overrated artist with a dated portfolio in his pockets. But we cannot deny that Voltage Fighter Gowcaizer is a Masami Obari creation. It's as much of a creation as his work on mecha anime and the Fatal Fury franchise. And even with all of his weaknesses on display here, we still see some of his strengths as an animator shine through regardless. Those moments are what make Gokaizer infinitely more watchable than your average bad anime. Voltage Fighter Gokaizer is part of who Masami Obari is, take it or leave it. We can't always fully define an artist through just their good works. Sometimes you need a real clunker to get the full picture.
But let me ask you something. Where's the rest of your uniform?
The very full picture. Thank you all for watching. If you like this video or want to support this channel, please donate to my Patreon. Each dollar can give you early access to my videos as they come out, as well as keep the channel running a bit more smoothly. You can also subscribe to the channel, ring that bell for notifications, or just like this video. Either way, you'll be helping me out. That's all for now. See you for the next round of tapes.
Boo! I am the ghost of the one who was beaten to death by you in a karate match. As revenge, I am going to haunt you. I will haunt you wherever you go. Don't try to hide. I will haunt you.